Welcome back. Let's buckle up because we're about to get on a sensitive topic, inclusion and diversity in this day and age. So we want to make sure that we do not get emotional and use our personal biases when we are creating these programs for the companies we work in and for the employees whom we employ. Recent observations that we've had here. In the current social and political climate, companies are making very quick and in some cases drastic changes to their human resource policies, and they're putting it under inclusion and diversity improvements when they are in fact illegal. So you don't want to make illegal policy obvious. You want to make sure you're not creating some crazy litigious policy that is such a huge change for the people that you work with that it benefits some, alienates the other, and put yourself in court. I'm telling you, as a corporation, as a board, as a small business owner, you guys are like in between a rock and a hard place here. Because red pill, blue pill. As soon as you make the people with the blue hats happy, the red ones are going to sue you. You make people with the red hats happy, the blue ones are going to sue you. So we need to be above all of this. We have to know our protected classes. Now, some of you on this webinar are from, well, many of you guys are from different countries. So you need to know the federal, state, province, city, or maybe any other local laws that affect your business and or the people whom you employ. You have to know these. And since we are in such a volatile time right now, if you are one of the people I just mentioned, you need to read these laws yourself. It's no longer a responsible thing to say, you know what, that's what I have attorneys for. That's what I have a legal team for. While that is the case, and we're going to get into how we can use them strategically, attorneys are human beings, just like police officers are human beings, just like doctors are human beings. They screw up, they're corruptible, and we've seen all of those things happen in the past, especially with the stuff that's going on right now. What about the political stuff? You have the Republicans, you have the Democrats, you have a couple different parties depending on where you live. Don't let their bickering and their arm wrestling and their changing of policies and the way they play the media. You have CNN versus Fox here in the United States, or those types, some are liberal, some are conservative, some are Republican leaning, some are Democrat leaning. Don't let their bickering and their fight for ratings cause you to make a poor decision and put your company at risk. Okay? So, not only do we have to have a legal team, but we also need to read these things ourselves to make sure that our legal team is not trying to pull one over on us. So, protected classes. In the United States, this is where I would go, the EEOC. Make sure that if you have an equivalent agency in the country where you are at, or in the state and province that you are at, make sure you know what has to be done. In our country, you cannot discriminate based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin. Genetics was a newer one that was added. Disability, age, sex, and we're talking about wages here in the Civil Rights Act. Retaliation, we have a whistleblower protection system in our country, okay? And then we have to tell all of our employees what they should do if they think they're being discriminated against, okay? All of these things are phenomenal, and they need to be used, with caution, legal basis, and no emotions. One of the companies whose policy I reviewed recently was an inclusion and diversity, and it favored applicants who were people of color versus their Caucasian applicants. And it looked really, some of these titles of these programs sound so good, but they're not good, because as soon as I do something for people of color, I have to remember that right here, EEOC says there should be no discrimination against people based on race and color. Well, guess what? Caucasian, white, that falls into race and color, national origin. So I can't give people a benefit or something special just because the current social and political climate is urging us to do these things that sound and feel great, and they're not based in fact. So make sure you have your attorneys looking at what is legally acceptable before you make any of these feel-good policies. And it does feel good to make some of these changes, especially if we think we're helping out one group, but obviously our intent isn't to shun another group, but if that is what the effect is, we're going to be held accountable for that. Okay? So make sure you know what your laws are. Now, earlier I mentioned the legal thing. If you are a CEO of a company and you have a legal team, I would have a policy that says, hey, when we bring up some sort of, or when our employees or human resources management brings up some sort of controversial policy that we know is going to send some waves through the company, I like to have a legal versus legal mock hearing. For those of you who took certain speech and debate classes in high school and college, one of the very popular exercises for an instructor to do is to find how many students in class like this topic and how many like this topic. So let's say we're talking Fords and Chevys of automobiles. So you got half the group loves Ford, half the group loves Chevys. Okay, what I want you guys to do is you're going to present a case that supports your vehicle of choice and why you think it's better than the other one, why you think it's more valuable, and why you think it's safer. The only caveat is the people who like Fords, you are going to be assigned the Chevy report, and the people who like Chevys, you are going to be presenting a case for Ford. That has always been a phenomenal exercise because you're having to fight for something that you don't believe, right? That's what these legal versus legal mock hearings can do, all right? So if I take a human resource policy proposal and it's going to change the way we look at applicants when they come in, and it's based on inclusion and diversity, we're talking about filtering out applicants based on something other than knowledge, skills, and abilities. And that is a dangerous slope. So you have your attorneys come up with a case and battle each other. Have a hearing. Give them a couple weeks to prepare for it. Remember, yes, they're attorneys, but they work for the company. So don't let them forget that. And you want to see them present cases that oppose each other, and then you can have an after-action review when that's done as the legal team and then company leadership, and then you can make your decisions after that. But it has to be a legitimate attempt at talking the other side out of their idea. Man, it is an enlightening thing, because at the end of the day, basically we're deciding who is going to get mad at us and what are we going to have to defend in court. So we need to know that we have a solid foundation to stand on, and it cannot be the fact that there's a political leaning towards one side or the other. It can't be because my neighbor's friend is in this civil activist group and they hit this real emotional chord with me. Those things are great, but you can't put your company at risk when you do that. All right? If you stick with the KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities, you're going to be fine every time. If I have to defend anything in court, I'll be happy to defend that. I filter my applicants based off of knowledge, skills, and abilities. When I promote, I go off of knowledge, skills, and abilities. When I terminate, if I have to, I go off knowledge, skills, and abilities, and I make sure I can document it and prove it 10 times over. Inclusion and diversity sounds nice, but when you look at what we have in the United States, let's go back right here, we already have laws that protect darn near everybody. And as long as I'm currently in line with these laws, I'm probably pretty good. So make sure your legal team is doing everything they can to minimize any legal ramifications that can come in the future against your company.